Our host this evening is a very special person. He has been Toastmaster for around 6 years. He has been a club officer in 3 districts, 71, 91, and 83. He helped to start 4 new clubs, and as division director, the division was president distinguished. As area director, all 6 clubs in the area were presidents distinguished. Lives in the fear of ever becoming a sergeant at arms. And you're probably wondering why? Because someone might ask him to lift something. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my huge honor to introduce you the one and only Steve Campion.
Thank you, Gaia. Do you know, I could come to these webinars just for Gaia's introductions and just for the welcome that she gives everyone. It's always such good fun on a Sunday. And I think we're going to have a good, fun, enjoyable and informative session today. I have the great pleasure of hosting and presenting this session of Meet the DLT, which is another one of our Sunday webinars. So far, the Sunday webinars have covered a vast range of assortment of topics. We've had pathways, we've had Zoom, we've had leadership, we've had interviews and presentations by international leaders. And today we get to look a little behind the scenes. We get to meet the district leadership team that help us all within District 71 with our world. But before I kick that off, I would like to ask our Zoom masters, with the magic of Zoom, to try and share a poll with you all. Jen, what's your best role in Toastmasters? Are you a club member, a club officer, a district officer, not yet a Toastmaster? By the end of it, we hope to change that. Or maybe you're just here for the donuts. I don't know. But please take a moment to answer that. And while I'm doing that, a little bit on Zoom etiquette. Please do keep your microphone muted. But if you would like to ask a question of the DLT members, please send your question via chat to Sue, wherever you are on the screen. Sue is our chat monitor today. Please send your question to her so that she can relay them through to the DLT today. Please keep your cameras on because we like to see smiley faces, but we are recording this session. So if you are on the run from the police, feel free to turn your camera off. And I think that's it for the administration of what we've got to cover today. We've got Liz who's going to be helping keep us to time. So before I introduce I'm trying to answer the question myself now, multitasking. I'm a man, I can't do 2 things at once. Before I introduce the DLT members, I'd like to share a little bit about this district of which many of us are a part. District 71 was founded in 1972. There were already some clubs in the UK and Ireland, but it was the first time they all came together as one district. And that district grew until in 2014, it was so big, it was necessary to split it into District 71 and into District 91. District 71, as it is now, has 12 divisions, 47 clubs, 47 areas, 203 paid clubs, and as Gerard pointed out to me earlier, as of today, exactly 4,001 members. So it's quite a group of people that we are all a friendly part of. This district actually is now one of our larger districts, so there's a lot of fun for the DLT to look after. Now, Gearoid or Gaia, I don't know which of you, are you able to see the results now? Are we able to share the results of that poll that we were doing?
I can share the results.
Wonderful. Oh, we've got lots of club officers here, club members, district officers. No one who's not a Toastmaster yet. I'm disappointed. I'd have thought talking about this topic would definitely make people want to join. And only 3% are here for the donuts. Hopefully we'll get to that later. Thank you all for answering that. I'd now like to introduce our district officer, our DLT. And the format for this is going to be, I'm going to ask each member of the DLT to introduce themselves. Then we'll get into the meat of this conversation, which is questions for the DLT. As I said earlier, please do send questions to Sue as we go along. I do have a prepared set of questions as well. And thank you to everyone who has already sent us questions in advance of this for us to ask the DLT. I'm going to be quiet now. I'd now like to hand over to John Cox, who is our immediate past district director. John, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Steve. I was still muted. I didn't realise there were donuts. If I'd have known, I'd have come on earlier. Good to be with you anyway. This is my 13th year in Toastmasters and my 5th and final year on the district leadership team. So what is it that an immediate past director does? Not a lot, I probably hear you say. But according to Toastmasters International, the immediate past district director provides counsel and guidance to district leaders and plans, directs and organises projects and committees as requested by the district director. Responsibilities include serving as a member of the District Executive Committee and District Council, upholding the bylaws and policies of Toastmasters International, encouraging dedicated members to accept leadership positions, and helping the district achieve distinguished recognition. So my aim is to support and act as a sounding board for the current district director and helping to keep the district on track and focused on what's important. The immediate past district director is responsible for organising and running the Hall of Fame for his or her year. They are also usual for the immediate past district director to chair the district leadership committee, whose job is to abide by the timeline of TI's governing documents, to seek qualified candidates for district leadership roles, and to conduct candidate assessments. The DLC chair presents the DLC report to the district director and ultimately to the district council and at the annual business meeting. Those people that know me will know that I'm a passionate enthusiast for excellence, and I'm sure that they will hear me mention it on numerous occasions. So it's useful to remind us of past initiatives and successes, and I think that we have to avoid reinventing the wheel. Having been on the DLT now for 5 years, I recognise that past officers have done some great work that is often neglected, and it also happens in our clubs. Oh, and did I mention excellence? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, John, for the excellent introduction. And if I'm correct in recalling, the Hall of Fame is now available on YouTube as well, I believe. Excellent. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to hand over to Daniel Sanders, our Programme Quality Director. Daniel.
Hey, thank you very much, Steve. Hope you can all hear me well. We live in interesting times, don't we, with the COVID, but that does not mean that this year is a cursed year. No, it doesn't. I'm Daniel Sanders. I'm your Programme Quality Director. I oversee education and training within the district. I answer to you all and to the district leadership team for the number of distinguished clubs that we get at the end of the year, our metric of club performance and quality. And to support that, I'm investing comprehensively in training, because the key to it really, if you want your best officers, you have to put your best trainers out there. And I'm doing that through a Trainers Bureau program led by Danny Banks. I'm also helping to support those clubs by promoting the Vice President of Education each month, the best one. And I'm also helping clubs audit their quality through the Moments of Truth program. This is not the only area I'm supporting. I'm supporting quality district events through appointing 2 very capable chief judges. We're also hosting this year a Winter Education Summit for the very first time to help reconnect each other with the passion of the great autumn conferences of old. Top quality acts all weekend long, 5th and 6th of December. We also have a virtual online conference coming up next year in May, and Tanya Gerard is leading that agenda very successfully. I now see that we're moving on to yellow, and I briefly mentioned that I'm backing community programs and the Rotary liaison, and I'm backing pathways and the Distinguished Club program with incentives. So to go back to my quote at the beginning, may you live in interesting times, but may you also come to the attention of important people for your endeavours. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And I like to do things in interesting orders sometimes. So the next person I'd like to call up is Gerard Mannix, our district director. So please welcome Gerard.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and thank you, Steve, for the introduction. You gave me a small bit of palpitation there. I thought my name was Daniel Sanders. Number one, I would like to really thank John Cox on his advisory role. John has been magnificent this year. Thank you so much. As district director currently, you might envisage my position as being CEO of Toastmasters. I partake in the budget with regard to the district success, strategy plans, dealing with the team and working with them in many aspects of the different roles that they do have. We meet once a week as a whole team, and then I have one-to-one talks with each of the members in what they're achieving during the week. So it's always busy. I really have a fantastic team in Program Quality Director Daniel, Club Growth Director, oh good Lord, I mean, yeah, Club Growth Director anyway, and please keep going, Gerard. With regard to the other people, I really want to thank them very much. I'm getting a block. Anyway, I want to say to you, think for a moment how Toastmasters has challenged your life. And please, as I said already to Steve, we have 4,001 members in our district currently. Can each person reach out to somebody to invite them to their club, to a meeting, be it either a cousin, a relative, a work member, or a neighbor, so that we promote Toastmasters, sell it, promote it, and canvass it. We have nothing to be shy about Toastmasters. We need to engage as many as we can during this current year and into the future. I really thank you for your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Gerard. And I'm glad to know I'm not the only one who forgets names as we're going through. This is all good, thank you. I'd now like to invite Brenda, who is our Club Growth Director, to say a few words. So please welcome Brenda.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. It's lovely to be with you here this evening. My name is Brenda Lannon. I'm your Club Growth Director. I'm a member of Toastmasters for 10 years, and I'm a member of two clubs, Fingal Toastmasters in North County Dublin and IFSC Toastmasters in City Centre Dublin. My role as Club Growth Director has three elements to it: club building, club growth, and club retention. At present, as Steve already mentioned, we have 203 clubs and 4,001 membership payments. We started the year off at 212 clubs, and since the 1st of July, we have chartered two new clubs: Phil on Toast, a corporate club in Dublin City Centre, and Online Orators, which, as its name suggests, is an online club. I'd like to congratulate the sponsors and mentors and members of these clubs. And indeed, I'd like to congratulate and wish all the very best to our club sponsors and mentors who help the district by working together to build new clubs. And that is one of my main areas of responsibilities, is to build new clubs within the district. They may be at community or corporate level. So my role is to support members, club officers, area and division directors to manage and to promote membership within their areas of responsibility. For clubs with fewer than 12 members, I want to appoint coaches to help them to grow their clubs. I will leave it at that point, as I see I'm on the red light. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Brenda. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to say a lot more on those topics shortly when we get into the questions. So thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Jordan, who is our Public Relations Manager. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening to everyone. As Steve said, I'm Elizabeth Jordan, and I am your Public Relations Manager. I have to tell you, it's a job that I'm absolutely loving. It's challenging, but one that is working well because it's helping to underpin everything that the DLT is doing. So what exactly does a PRM do? But my role, I'll give it to you in my words. There's an official explanation, but let me tell you what I do. I see myself as the #1 ambassador for the district, which means that if I'm speaking, I always wear my pin, I wear it with pride. If I'm speaking to people externally, internally, on the radio, on the telly, whatever, my job is to sell Toastmasters. I've been in October, I celebrated 10 years as a Toastmaster. I'm immensely proud of that. I belong to 4 clubs, my home club, one advanced club, I'm coaching a struggling club, and I belong to an international online club. So what am I doing? The 138 days I've been in the role, what have I been doing? Using social media, mainly Facebook and LinkedIn, to speak to the outside world and say, come and join us, raise our profile. I have regular meetings with the VPPRs. I arrange training courses for them, and I'm really encouraging them to go out and get people in. I have a whole range of very exciting incentives for the clubs and for individuals to help, as I said, get people into the clubs and to raise the profile. So in short, I'm there as an ambassador to raise awareness, raise the profile internally and externally. And I'm really looking forward to your questions so I can fill you in more on exactly what PRM does within the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. The next person we'd like to hear from is Eileen O'Neill, our finance manager. So please welcome Eileen.
Thanks very much, Steve. So my name is Eileen O'Neill and I'm a member of 3 Toastmasters clubs. My home club is EI Toastmasters, which I was a founding member of back in 2013. And since we have gone into a virtual situation, I took the opportunity last year when I was Division C Director to join 2 other clubs, IBM Blue and Belfast Toastmasters. And it really has been a great experience seeing how other clubs operate as well. Loving that experience. My role this year as District 71 Finance Manager is to work with the district leadership team to agree a budget. That budget is submitted to Toastmasters International and agreed. And then for the rest of the year, it's to monitor that budget to make sure that we stay on track as close as possible. And we're doing good. So we get 25%, the district gets 25% of the membership fees, your membership fees, and that goes towards activities that contribute to achieving the district success plan. And as the others have said, the district success plan is really all about building new clubs and supporting the clubs in the district at achieving excellence. That's what it's about. On the income side, we're doing good. We're right on target. So fair play to everybody for getting their members renewed. Our income is budgeted at being 15% lower than it was last year because of the COVID situation. On the expenditure side, we're actually a little bit behind on expenditure. So I'd encourage everybody to get out there and use all those incentives that Daniel and Elizabeth and Brenda have been talking about, because there's plenty of opportunity for you to get some nice kudos for your clubs and let them know that you've got an incentive from the district for doing really well. I'm here to help you. Any questions on finance at all, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and any time during the year. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Eileen. And it's always a delight when we have a finance manager who's encouraging people to spend money. I wish you were in my work. I would appreciate that. Thank you, Eileen. The next person we'd like to hear from is Philip O'Brien, our administration manager. So please welcome Philip.
Thank you very much, Steve, and good evening to everyone here present. I am the District 71 Administration Manager. This is my 6th year as a Toastmaster, and I am a member of 2 clubs in Division A. I'm a member of Bandon Toastmasters Club and Kinsale Toastmasters Club. My role as Administration Manager, the Administration Manager is appointed by the District Director, and I have essentially two main areas of responsibility. One is to maintain, to record and to keep accurate records of district meetings and to ensure that these are distributed appropriately. These would include district executive committee meetings, district council meetings, and any other meetings as required. I'm required to ensure that these are accurate and timely. My second area of responsibility is assisting the district director with essentially whatsoever he may ask of me. It is maintaining administration lists on the district tools that we use for communication, such as Constant Contact and Dropbox. Several of you will have received a number of emails from myself around the time of the district executive committee and several other meetings. I very much enjoy the logistical challenge of the role with, as Gerard has pointed out, there are currently 4,001 members, and the lists that I download from Toastmasters International do require quite a bit of work to get them into a presentable manner, but I very much enjoy that challenge, and that's something I have to do every month. It is possibly from my own experience as a Toastmaster, the administration manager's role is one that maybe isn't known that much about. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. And so now we've heard from each member of our DLT. They've told us a little bit about themselves and a little bit about their roles. And now I have the pleasure of bombarding them with questions. And what I would say to our panelists is, I'll ask a question. If I don't give it to the right person, please feel free to give your comments and suggest someone else might be a better person to answer. And I'd like this to be a little of a discussion. To our audience, again, please do continue to send your questions through to Sue Burnett as our chat monitor. She'll make sure that they become visible to us and I have a chance to ask the DLT your questions. I don't think we're going to get through every single question today, and if we don't, or if there are elements that we will need to follow up on, then we will do that after this event, and we'll circulate the answers to everyone afterwards. So thank you very much. So my first question actually is to do with starting new clubs, and Brenda, it's going to come in your direction. One of the questions that we've received is, what types of financial support and other support can the district provide to people who want to start new clubs in their area?
Thank you, Steve. Well, I get very excited when I hear from people that want to start a new club. So from a financial perspective, there is a funding available to members who want to hold a demonstration meeting. Now, demonstration meetings most likely will be held online. But marketing for that demonstration meeting and promoting that meeting through the various channels, social media, local newspapers, your local community centres that may have an online presence, there is funding available for marketing for demonstration meetings. The second aspect of that question, Steve, sorry, please forgive me.
So other support as well. So
other support,
actually,
yes.
Yeah, Brenda, if I can move on to another related topic, which I think is still in your area, is
sure.
A lot of people have been asking about club sponsors and club mentors, how they get appointed. Is there a process for selecting and interviewing them? So could you speak just a little to that point as well?
Okay, when a member decides that he or she wants to start a new club, they normally get together with a few others and they form a team. And when they're submitting this paperwork to Toastmasters International, they normally decide who the sponsor and mentors are for the club. However, in some circumstances, a request may come to me to forward on to TI World Headquarters to ask them to confirm the appointment of a sponsor and mentor. And just to clarify the roles and the responsibilities of a sponsor and a mentor. A sponsor brings a club to charter status. A mentor starts from when the club is chartered for the next 6 months. So it helps the club to become stronger, to run good meetings for their members.
Thank you.
So those are the two, those are the main areas of responsibility for sponsors and mentors.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. My next question is actually going to go in the direction of John Cox. You talked about providing guidance to the DLT members from your previous experience in these different roles. So one of the questions is, what's the best thing that you've learned from your time on the DLT?
I think the thing that I've learned in all my years in Toastmasters is the fact that we're totally reliant on club officers for the success of our clubs, our areas, our divisions and our district. And the more we can do to develop those people and get them started fairly early on in their job. I think one of the successes of Toastmasters is the fact that we change those people every year, but it's also one of our failings. Because you wouldn't run a business like that, would you, of swapping your board of directors or your senior management team every year? But it is a strength. But getting those people up to speed and developing them and giving them necessary skills to run their club with quality, with excellence, here I've used that word again, is so critical, so important. You know, hence the training that Daniel and everybody else is trying to provide.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. And we don't have a grammarian with the word of the day, but excellence seems to be the one that's coming up a lot here today. So thank you very much. Gerard, my next question is for you. Could you just tell us a little about the district strategy for this year, the district success plan, what types of things you and the DLT members are looking to achieve this year?
Sure, of course. Thank you very much, Steve, for the question. With regard to the district success plan, that's something that we need to create from the word go on the 1st of July. It is to be submitted to TI by the 30th of September. It is always allocated to the trio, meaning the district director, program quality director, and the club growth director. With regard to that, and with regard to especially this year coming into creating a district success plan, one can generally, would say, make a strategy from what has happened the year before and try to improve on that. But with regard to COVID this year, it kind of blew the whole thing into a sort of a blunderbuss. But yet a success plan was created. Our main theme of strategy this year is to support each member each member in our district, and also to support the weaker clubs or vulnerable clubs. With regard to moving forward on that, what we really envisage is to be, available as a DLT to our district in many aspects. We rely on our ambassadors, like our area directors, division directors. And as John said about clubs, our officers and clubs need to be of a caliber that can take the message to the members and encourage them and support them. I hope that answers the full part of what you asked me.
Does indeed. Thank you very much, Gerard. It's great to see how these ideas come together and what the focus of the team working together actually is here. So thank you. My next question is actually to do with finance. So Eileen, I think is coming in your direction. We've had lots of people who've asked us questions about Toastmasters international fees. And as has been pointed out, this is an unusual year. It's a difficult year for a lot of people. So are you aware of anything that Toastmasters International is doing or could be doing about fee costs, introducing incentives for people to join, maybe even reducing the price for dual members? Do you have any thoughts or comments on that?
Oh, when we went into this COVID situation and virtual meetings, I think the whole Toastmasters world was turning to Toastmasters International to see what they might be able to do in relation to fees, given that we were all online and had to adapt to such a strange new world. But I learned myself that Toastmasters International has high fixed fees that they need to cover. And they were budgeting themselves that this year, without doing anything else, they were going to be down 15% on membership fees, because we weren't going to have members renewing around the world at the 100% strength that they would be expected. So with that, there's very little scope really for Toastmasters International to be given reductions on a $45 6-monthly membership fee. But what they have done, and they're meeting all the time and they're sending us all these updates, and I think all club officers are receiving them, and the district leadership team. For instance, if you're setting up a new club, just in the last week or two, they've communicated to say that they're waiving the joining fee for new members. That's substantial. And the other thing they've said that they're doing in relation to new clubs is not charging the application to organise fee, which is $125. So that's a significant waiving as well. As I said, they're looking at it all the time. An awful lot of clubs in the district have reduced their fees for members because they're not incurring the costs of venue hire and teas and coffees. So members are seeing the benefit there as well across the district. Now, some clubs never had, like my own EI Toastmasters, we never had to have a venue or teas and coffees. So we can't offer a reduction in fees. But yeah, that's the situation. So I don't think that we should be holding our breath for any reduction in membership fees. And I can understand why Toastmasters International are doing. They just don't have the bandwidth.
Okay. Thank you, Eileen. That makes a lot of sense. And it's also helpful to hear about where those fixed costs are, what's happening with the money, where the wiggle room is. And actually the fact that you said that they were expecting to be 15% down, you mentioned earlier that the district receives 25% of income. So that presumably means that the district budget is lower than it otherwise would have been. So it's useful for everyone to have those insights. So thank you very much for sharing that. I think given that, it moves on to another topic or another related topic, which Elizabeth's going to come in your direction, which is there's presumably a need to get the name out there, to get the word out there. So can you tell us a little about what the district is doing to help raise awareness of Toastmasters International and help people be encouraged to come to our clubs?
Thank you, Steve, for that question. Well, as you said, this is really occupying a lot of our thought. And the thing about PR sort of underpins everything that's done. So talking to Brenda, talking to Daniel and so on, we think strategically, you know, what do we have to do? What we've been doing in practice, personally, what I've been doing is working closely with the VPPRs, because the VPPRs at the end of the day are working with the clubs and they're trying to get people in. So I have regular meetings with VPPRs. The last session we had training on Canva to develop posters, and that in turn they can use to help spread the word. From a district level, I'm doing using the social media. We're focusing on Facebook and we're focusing on LinkedIn. And we also want to improve that even more. So we're working with an agency to help us to build a strategy and also to improve our website. Our monthly webinars, interestingly, it's not only for our members, we also get visitors from outside coming to those webinars. And I was really delighted when someone said to me, I really enjoyed that. It's made me want to join Toastmasters. So everything we do, I think we've got to look at a way to get our outsiders in. So just to summarize, social media, working closely with the VPPRs and the clubs. I didn't mention a newsletter, but we're doing a newsletter every couple of months and so on. So everything we're doing, we're looking outwards and inwards to get the people in. So that's my input for the moment.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And you mentioned things like training sessions and workshops on topics like Canva. Are those things recorded and made available for people to refer to later?
Yes. What I do, in addition to the meetings I have, I will send an occasional update to say, you know, we've had a meeting. Here's the link to the YouTube, because we also have a D71 YouTube channel. So all of this information is on the YouTube channel as a resource, a learning resource. So I do also reinforce that and send messages to say it's now up and running for you to have a look at. And I'll if I see training from abroad or training I think is interesting, I'll also mention that to our users as well, just to keep that information current and up to date.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, because I'm hearing from lots of people that this is about working with clubs, working with club officers, providing information and support. And I think that's a good example of that. Thank you. So, and it brings us neatly on, I think, to the topic of training and support for our club officers. So Daniel, this one's coming in your direction now, around the plans for club officer training. What are the plans for the next round of club officer training? And also some of the comments or questions I've received have been along the lines of, does it need to be so long? Do people need to spend so much time doing club officer training? What other options are there of district level or area level? So can you speak a little to the topic of the plans for club officer training and what needs to be involved in that, please?
Thank you very much, Steve, for that question. I take it this is an example of the 10-part question that I'm allowed to pick out the bits I fancy.
There may be a follow-up.
Well, there's lots to consider in a good training program. And some people say they want it 3 hours or 3 hours below. Well, you think about it this way, what are those 3 hours used for? If it's 15 minutes of solid PowerPoint and being lectured at, that's already too much, isn't it? Who would say that's too much of being lectured at with PowerPoint? I think a lot of you would. Good training is about facilitative skills development. It's about gameplays, role plays, brainstorming sessions, networking opportunities, breaks. It's about all of those things. And personally, I'd rather a well-paced program that did its job than to cram it all down into the shortest space possible. Because to be honest, 15 minutes is far too long to have that treatment thrown at me. So there are some ways we could help ease the burden of the time taken on. And I did think at one point that we could develop a credit accumulation and transfer scheme where people could do an hour here when they were available and pick up another hour somewhere else. But it is actually quite complex to implement, and it is very hard to validate Zoom attendance efficiently to do that. But my heart was in it. I wanted it for you. In terms of the plans going forward, you were trying to get back in, were you, Steve? Never mind.
Carry on.
The plans going forward. Well, in the autumn, the summer, we had a district-wide Toastmasters Training Leadership Institute, and that was anew for the district, and it helped us at the time to pull all of our resources together and assemble some of our best trainers to get officer training started. 6 months on, we're in a different position. Our areas and our divisions have much better skills on Zoom. Some of them now have much better skills as trainers, and some of them have far better knowledge of what their clubs need. I will just temper that slightly, because at the localized level, whilst it's cozy and comfy, you have to remember, if training doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And in these challenged times, to get inputs from places beyond your locality, outside of your comfort zone, is so important. Often the greater part of training is to undo yesterday's understandings. And with that in mind, I do really think that there's a lot to offer by having larger training going on to connect different minds together. But what we think will work is to put a district-wide event at the end of the training window to act as a final mop-up and to help connect some of the more motivated officers together to get that added value synergy, whilst also giving the area directors plenty of scope to support their clubs specifically with their challenges. And that's where the thinking is at the present time. And this year we have trained more officers than we've ever trained before. We've added the capacity to the system with some of these measures. We trained 914 officers this year, 850 last year. We had 16 clubs trained full 7 officers. We only had 5 last year. At 33 clubs trained 6 officers. We only had 7 last year. So
wow. Thank you, Dan. And thank you for giving us such a rich overview of all the things that are being done to help club officers and help club officers with their training. And the numbers themselves suggest that people are actually interested in coming along to it, which I think is wonderful. Daniel touched a moment ago on the topic of connecting people together. The one of the benefits of these types of training sessions is we get to network more. And one of the questions that's come in, which Philip, I think I'm going to send in your direction. You mentioned in your introduction, Philip, that you spend a lot of time organizing lists, organizing communications, organizing getting things together and people together. One of our clubs has asked a question about they would like to link up with other clubs. They would like to build relationships with other clubs, find out what other clubs are meeting on certain days and in certain places, now that that's possible online. Do you have any suggestions about how our clubs can do that to network further afield?
Thank you for the question. To answer that question, I would really be, I think, speaking more as a club member rather than a DLT member. I know there is a section on the TI website that will give some of that information. Many clubs also use EasySpeak, which also provides that information. From an administration manager perspective, I'm not really sure where that would come under my remit. I think perhaps the two resources I've quoted would be the best sources for that, and networking, I suppose, through area directors and division directors would be a very helpful thing to do as well. If clubs wanted resources and in consultation with the district director, if I can provide information, that would be something I would look at. I think that would be my concluded answer.
No, thank you, Philip. And I didn't know whether you had like resources and this list of information, but as you point out, possibly the best place to start to find people, to find clubs that meet at certain times, certain locations, is just to look at the Toastmasters International website and do some searches there. I know when I've personally been traveling to places, that's how I find Toastmasters clubs to go visit. So if anyone's not done that, it's quite a useful resource. Thank you very much. Brenda, I'd like to come back to you about the topic of helping clubs that Gerard mentioned earlier, about helping some of our more vulnerable clubs, helping some of our clubs that are struggling a little bit more. So can you tell us a little about the role of club coaches, how club coaches get appointed, or the mechanism there? And also we do have a question came through from chat of, is it possible to have a club coach if a club has more than 12 members? So could you talk about that, please?
To answer the last part of your question first, no, the maximum number of members a club must have in order for a club coach to be formally assigned to the club is 12 members. The application is made through me to World Headquarters for the formal appointment of a club coach to a club with fewer than 12 members. That's one area where we are supporting clubs to grow their membership. One area that I'm looking at is clubs with more than 12 members, but fewer than 20 members, which would be charter strength membership numbers. And that's an area that I'm looking at in clubs to have a net membership growth of 5 members, but also to reach that 2020 mark.
Thank you. And to become a club coach itself, is there an application process? Is there an interview process? Can you share a little about that, please?
An application form is sent from me to TI. From an application perspective, from the individual who wants to become a club coach, one of the main criteria is that that member cannot be a member of the club that they wish to coach. They need to be obviously a paid up member of a Toastmasters club and have the experience to share with the club that they will be potentially a club coach to. But there's no interview process. Having said that, the club must agree to the appointment of a club coach. I can't, for want of a better word, force a club coach onto a club.
Okay, that's useful to know. Thank you. Oh, I got some echo from somewhere. So actually, I have a question that came through on the chat, which I think is an intriguing one, and it's for anyone on the DLT who has an answer to this. Are we aware, have there ever been any women-only Toastmasters clubs?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
ask Paul,
okay.
Paul Mahoney. He sneaked into one in New Zealand in drag, I believe.
Now, there's a photo that I'd be intrigued to see.
Laura Bruce set him up for it, by the way.
Okay, wow. So whoever answered that question, I think, yeah, that's a great one. And actually, something related, I think, has just come through from Susan here is, have there ever been any attempts to create Toastmasters clubs within prisons? Does anyone have any knowledge of that topic?
Yes, I do. It's Daniel again. There are prison clubs, and they've been reduced to gavel clubs because they don't have access to IT to access pathways. And it's Paul O'Mahony I meant to say earlier. I got his name wrong. Sorry about that. Yes, so there was a proposal put out last year, and prison clubs have now been converted to gavel clubs because gavel clubs continue to have access to hard copy legacy materials.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And Elizabeth, I think I saw your hand there. I think, did you have a comment on that same thing?
No, I was just going to agree. Lots of clubs, particularly in the US, they do a lot of work in prisons. And I don't know of any clubs in the UK doing that, but certainly I've seen them in the US and other places in prison, yeah.
I think they do speechcraft in the prisons also, as far as I'm informed and what I've read also.
Yes, that is true that worldwide there's lots of youth leadership and speechcraft programs done within correctional institutions, but there's very little publicity of it because you don't want to be publicly known to be going inside a prison in case somebody influences you to take something in.
So this sounds like a topic of conversation in its own right. It sounds like an interesting thing for people to talk about. John, I think, did you have a comment on that same topic?
My clubs has used speechcraft to train ex-offenders who were going into schools to try and discourage children from getting involved in crime.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great example of the outreach programs, the speechcraft programs, the youth leadership programs, which, yes, it's a great thing. And I personally think it's an underutilized or not so well known thing. And actually, John, you reminded me about one of the other questions that came in earlier, which I guess is coming towards Daniel or Eileen, about incentives and support for people doing youth leadership, speechcraft programs and other community programs. Daniel, can you tell us a little about those? Thank you.
Yes, I'll come in here. Yes, I oversee the community programs, and we have got Brendan's on the call here, he's youth leadership chair, and we've got Sultan Cuz's speechcraft chair, and they're there to help clubs plan programs, especially clubs with no background or previous experience in them. And what we're offering to help support things along the way is we're going to get some coordinator guides and just to help us planning manuals so that people can understand how to plan things, not necessarily how to deliver them. Delivery online is a bit more challenging because you may have to use the post to distribute things, but there's a lot of questions about whether manuals are as effective today as they were in the past, especially with the youth. The other things I'm providing, if it's needed for a club doing its program for the very first time and they want a full kit of manuals for 5 participants, I'll provide that for free on demand. And there are places and cases where you would want a hard copy kit, and I can also provide masks if you're going into a socially distanced situation. And yeah, there's quite a lot of support there. And Elizabeth wants to chip in some more.
Yes, I want to chip in, Daniel, to ask either you or myself to mention Rotary, because the other big outreach for us, of course, is Rotary, and we've got the 2 Rotary chairs appointed by the DD, Violet and Bernadette. So that's the other area in which we're looking to do outreach as well, the Rotary clubs.
Great. Thank you. And pivoting maybe slightly different topic, it's great to hear about all this activity that's going on. Gerard, I've not asked you a question for a while, so question for you. you've been talking this year about the Toastmasters promise and the importance of the Toastmasters promise. How do you feel that helps individual Toastmasters as well as the organisation in general?
You know, Steve, this was sort of like something that happened to me intuitively at the beginning of the year to create a theme for the year. During the past 9 years prior to this year being a Toastmaster, we generally heard the mission statement of the club, you know, and what the club was about. But it was something that I read about, heard about it when I became a Toastmaster, and never heard about it again until kind of this year that it was resurrected. I felt that this Toastmaster promise, reading it a couple of times before we developed what I described as a theme for this year, this theme of 10 points or targets applies to anything in life that we do. And that's something that Toastmasters does for us. It improves our own situation in many, many ways. With regard to it and its use, I have visited a number of clubs. It has been used about 30% of the time, but also today at Division A contest, Paul O'Mahony took the time for everybody to repeat the Toastmaster promise. It gave me goosebumps, I'm quite honest with you, that it fulfilled something that I never expected during the whole year. But I genuinely think that the Toastmasters promise engages all the things. It's not just for beginner Toastmasters, it's not just for the first day Toastmasters. It applies to me as a district leadership team person just as well as any other member. I hope I answer your question with that, Steve.
Yep, thank you very much. And it's always great to hear about why you feel that's important and how our clubs and our members can benefit from that. I really appreciate that. I'm conscious of time, so we're going to, I want to move to just my last question, which is for anyone who wishes to answer it. So please just raise your hand if you do. This has been an exceptional year in so many different ways, and I'm sure you've all seen some wonderful things that clubs have been doing and adapted this year. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience that you've seen that you think is a great adaptation that clubs have picked up this year? Elizabeth, please.
I think this year has indeed been an unusual year, but something from my home club that I thought was quite useful. What the committee did was sit down and look at our meetings and ask ourselves, in this COVID world, online all the time, is it right to just transfer what we were doing in person online? And we had a major rethink. So for example, we did things like shorten the meeting. Rather than go for the full 2 hours, we go for an hour and a half. We have combined the hour count in the grammarian. We now do evaluation huddles. So after each speech, we huddle in a breakout room and we'll do evaluations. And we've had guest speakers from abroad and so on to the club. So we've actually revitalized and reinvigorated the meetings. And I'm saying it's working because we've now got, I think, 25 members. We're 100% pathways adopted and things are going really well. And I think that's happened because we sat back and we did a rethink of what do we need in this COVID environment online. And it's working for us. And I think, yeah, we're happy with it. So that's what we're doing. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very, very much, Elizabeth. And I think, being very conscious of time now, I'd like to start to wrap up what we're doing here. But thank you to everyone who has attended here. Thank you to everyone who has sent in questions. If there are questions that we didn't get to or that we need to follow up on, and I've heard an awful lot today where the answer is yes, there's lots of resources available. So I'll work with the DLT members to help collate that and share the results of that. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the webinar team who do an amazing job of putting these webinars together and looking after us throughout. And finally, I would like to thank each member of the district leadership team. I think quite often, Gerard mentioned earlier that the DLT meet every week. Gerard speaks to each individual every single week. I think with all the things going on in Toastmasters, sometimes we don't appreciate the sheer amount of work involved in it, the volunteering and what this team is doing for us and for each other. It's a great example of our Toastmasters values. I really appreciate it. So please turn your microphones on for a moment because I'd like to give them all a big round of applause. Thank you. That's it from me. Thank you very much. I'd now like to hand over to Gerard to close the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Fellow Toastmasters, I wish the 44 of you that are here that have come tonight to this meeting, thank you very much for attending. Number one, I want to thank my fellow colleagues on the district leadership team for participating in this, and I'm sure it was challenging for each person. Steve, I wish to thank you for the way that you performed the hosting of the meeting and organized the questions in a very formulated way. To all our support team, the Zoom people, the timers, Gearoid, I see your face, everybody that was around, thank you so much indeed for all your diligent work, not alone this evening, but for many, many occasions that you do with such a voluntary situation. I suppose there are many things that I could reflect back on in the last 55 minutes. Number one would be the actual success plan. With regard to, I think it was 2 meetings ago, I suggested that we in the DLT will meet in January. This success plan has been evolving every week, if not every day, during the whole year. It varies. We started out first when I wrote the success plan, we'd meet every 2 weeks. It was necessary to meet every week. It was not alone necessary to meet every week, but I meet each of the members during the week because it's constantly evolving to stimulate members to create a new atmosphere. As Elizabeth has mentioned, she is working very hard to improve our social media, also to improve our website. We hope to have a revamped website to begin into the future on January the 1st, especially to wait the greeting of our international president on January the 13th. With regard to training, the amazing work that Daniel has done, that we're having a winter summit on the 5th and 6th of December. And don't forget, we have fun just as well as we work. There's a party on the Friday night, the Saturday night, the Saturday night, the 5th of December. So you'll all be very, very welcome to join in for that. Also, with regard to the way Toastmasters is promoted at the present, and Brenda has mentioned that the reduction that has been introduced for Toastmasters for new charter clubs, where fees are reduced currently, this is a promotion for 3 months. So don't let any moment go, as I said already, with regard to stimulating the initiation of new members and the possibility of new clubs. No matter how remote it is or how lazy it can seem to you, as we heard today in Division A dream is a dream, we bring it to reality. So let's build on that. Okay. I think there's little further that I can add. Do I hand over to you, Steve, to close?
No, I think it's all you, Gerard.
Oh, it's all me. Okay, yeah. Well, I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. I wish you well during this part of the year. Keep well, keep safe and everything like that. I think we're going to be, I won't say out of person, but not in-person meetings for quite some time to come. We could really bargain on that right into the year 2021. So I'm afraid the Toastmasters that I have shook hands with this year has been 0 actually. You know, it's amazing that the way things can work out. And I really, really miss that because I'm a gregarious kind of person. I like to canvass people, talk to people, listen to their problems. I tell them my problems. We share different things all over the way. So anyway, I really thank each and every one of you for your voluntary time. You have been marvelous. And we only got a sample of the 4,001 people that we have on board at the moment. And let's build on that. Thank you so much. Have a safe evening, happy evening, and good night.